The champ is here. Jessica Borga, 145-pound champ of the BKFC women's division, coming in here fighting next week in Newark, New Jersey as the co-main event. I'm hearing David Feldman say yesterday with our man Brian Sosha for the Queen of Violence belt against the Misfit. Thanks so much, Jessica, for joining us. We appreciate it. Of course, I got to ask the same question everyone always asks. How's camp going right now? I know you get the same one every time, but, you're just a week out here. Very important fight, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, of your career. Coming down in weight. How does it feel? Last week you posted you're only 5 pounds off. How's it going as you get close to this fight?
Honestly, way better than I anticipated it going. I mean, I don't walk away, a long ways away from what fight I fight at 45 and I walk around 150 at most usually. So I don't usually fight very far from my weight class anyway. So it made the cut way easier. But it's been going good. Like the fight couldn't be better. I'm just excited. I want to this fight like ASAP.
So do we. We can't wait to watch this fight. It's going to be an awesome card. Hopefully I'll be there in attendance. I'm in the New York area, so I'm looking forward to this. I'm finally getting over here into New Jersey, New York. It's going to be a huge market for the BKFC to break into, I'm sure. How exciting is that for you? I mean, obviously, you're down in Florida, so there's been a lot of fights there plenty of times, fighting at home, fighting in front of fans. But with all the history of fights in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, like this area, it's not Madison Square Garden, but Prudential Center, they still have a good history of combat sports here. How does that feel for you to be the first BKFC, card to be there?
Oh, it's an honor, to be on such a big card where it's at, just starting and getting and growing the sport more it's an honor to be a part of it.
Well, speaking of the Prudential Center fights that they've had there, as MMA is where you started. You're actually a BJJ black belt. What was it like for you? You said that you feel at home in the BKFC. This is, where you want to be. Obviously, you've had incredible success, but for someone who started as, ground training and grappling and submissions to come in here and just be knocking women out left and right, what was it like for you to make that transition? What made you make that decision? And I mean, obviously, I'm not going to ask how it's gone because it's gone pretty damn well.
It is going very well, and honestly, there was no transition for me. It's actually what I started with, the bare knuckle brawling. I was raised in. I grew up fighting. I grew up fighting on the streets. I fought men bare knuckle. That was always kind of more my style. But when I got into MMA, I started transitioning to my school being a jiu-jitsu based and wrestling school. I mean, if you look at the beginning of my career, I was knocking them all out in the first round too, and then we just got, better at ground game. And I kind of, with MMA, you kind of get good at certain things, and then you start kind of transitioning in certain ways and pulling it all together. So I kind of get away from my stand up because we didn't do much stand up, and bare knuckle. Like as soon as I knew about BKFC, I wanted to join, but I was under contract with Bellator. And I still actually had one fight on my contract with Bellator before, like actually getting out of that contract to do my first BKFC, and it was over from there. Like I've never felt more comfortable, more calm. This is what I was meant to do. I feel like I don't see another person right now beating me in this sport. This is just what I was meant to do.
It certainly shows. I mean, usually you see jiu-jitsu fighters, you see jiu-jitsu black belts. Obviously the stand-up's going to be the weak thing. That wasn't for you, as we've seen time and time again so far in your 3 fights in the BKFC. You talk about there was no transition, just going back to what you were. We've heard similar from other fighters. Guys like Eddie Alvarez talked about how I used to do this in the street, so why not get paid for it now? And
Exactly.
for you, right into it, right to probably not almost say a step down in competition. I don't want to disrespect any of the women in the BKFC. We've had many of them on shows over the years, but from fighting guys, I heard the story about knocking a guy out in your mini skirt and heels to fighting women where you're in flat shoes and you know what you're supposed to be doing. Probably is a little bit of a step up, especially you don't have a few drinks in you before you're doing it now.
Yeah, and that at that time, I had no training whatsoever. That was just me growing up. I was always violent. I was raised in violence. That's what I knew, and that's what I was good at, even without the technique. And as I became a professional fighter and I did, the training and got better in the actual technique, it's just made me more violent, more efficient, more deadly. It's that skill really comes into play. And I'm just getting started with my bare knuckle boxing, like boxing in general, stand up. I'm just getting started with it, and you can see the way I've excelled each fight since my first BKFC fight and since I've been with Shift Combat. So you can see like just me just growing, and I love that because I love improving, and I love improving in every area I can, and there's always room for improvement. So I'm just excited to showcase once again how much more dangerous I am each fight.
Well, that's scary to hear. I'm sure Hannah Rankin would not want to hear that you're getting even better than you were after you just faced her for that inaugural title. And you mentioned shift. I mean, that is a great hotbed, especially for the BKFC. Florida in general has been a hotbed for the BKFC, whether it's South Florida or Tampa, Florida. It seems to be the two biggest areas for a lot of the best fighters in the BKFC. But shift, I've talked to a number of your teammates over the years, whether it's Captain Deadpool or Crystal Pittman or the Redneck Mundell, Papa G. Talk to all of them. How important is that for you as you talk about getting better, growing, your technique improving every time, to be in a camp that can actually understand BKFC bare knuckle fighting? Because most of a lot of other fighters, of course, or especially in the beginning of this promotion, have come from gyms where it's a boxing gym or it's an MMA gym, and they have a lot of years and experience and knowing the technique, the different things to do with that. But obviously things shift a little bit, especially when you take the gloves off and there's nothing to block punches, there's nothing to do different ways that you can work the rules as you do in MMA or boxing. Now come to a gym where there is so much expertise in this area of fighting. How much is that helpful in working your technique and getting you better before each fight?
It's everything. Honestly, it's everything. My coaches, I'm just grateful to be around such high level fighters and coaching, because especially with bare knuckle, like you said, there's a big difference between bare knuckle and MMA and boxing. There's a big difference. You need to have that secret sauce, we call it, with shift combat has that. They just know what to look for, they know what to work with, they know what to defend. They're just very good. They all work great together, and having such high level other bare knuckle boxers to work with really elevates your game too.
And obviously, it takes a lot of time to train to be a professional fighter, especially a championship level fighter. As you do, you put in that work. We see all the Instagram posts, not just about the rounds hitting the mitts, but the work and the strength training as well. Those hours, the hours of recovery. You have the hyperbaric chamber. You got the different things that you're using to get yourself to peak performance every time you train. How much does that take a toll on you outside of that? Your other life. I mean, you're a mother, you're a wife, you got a lot of business ventures going as well. You're a realtor. There's many things you got going on. You got a nonprofit as well. So many irons in the fire. How do keep that balance, find that time to be a high level fighter, be at your peak performance training wise, but also not let those other things go by the wayside?
Honestly, you just have to make it first, especially in fight camps. That has to come first. The things have to come second, unfortunately. But fortunately for me, I have a very, very supporting family, very supporting friends that help me pick up the pieces where I need. People that are invested into the businesses and stuff like that I do, that really take the reins whenever I'm in fight camp, so that I can commit fully to the fight camp and the training and the recovery. Because like you said, it takes an ample amount of time for each of those things. Like just me traveling, people don't realize how dedicated my schedule and training is. Even when I'm not in fight camp, I'm still training. I'm traveling to go to one training in the morning that's an hour and a half away, and then I go to another hour to an hour and a half, depending on traffic, to my next training, and then an hour to an hour and a half back home, depending on traffic. After that, so it's like easily 5 hours of travel a day. So that's why, like, I'm in the process of actually finding like kind of like a mobile apartment with a small RV that I can go traveling in between and have all the stuff that I need in between. I'm making it work now. I have a lot of people that help me while I'm in fight camp when I don't have something available like that. But I'm very good at being able to juggle things as well. So I'm fortunate for that as well.
Plenty of athletes have had to do things like that. I think it was Philip Rivers who had the story of, traveling like an hour each way to camp. So he had an RV or some kind of van where someone would drive him and he'd just be in the back watching the film, breaking down things. So, and the RV would probably suit you perfectly. I know you're very big into the outdoors, the camping, doing things like that. And, when you're riding, it's probably in style. I've seen a bike. I'm a fellow motorcycle enthusiast, although I have two young ones. So it's been in the garage for a couple of years, not really used because car seats don't go too well in the back of that, unfortunately. But how important is things like the getting outdoors, or getting to ride the bike and getting the wind through the hair, things that are not involved with training, or to let you go and reset and just refocus when you're so locked in on a fight, on an opponent, on a training. How important is that to have those, I don't want to say distractions, but those ways to get away from all that?
Yeah, it definitely is good. I think everyone needs that. If you focus on too much obsessing over one thing, and I feel like it can affect some people. And I do love to just take a break. I do meditation and stuff like that. That's my break too, my recovery time. I kind of take breaks. I'll even get involved in a show or something and get my mind off stuff. It doesn't really phase me mind wise, I don't feel like, but I do think that people need just a break from anything, no matter what you're doing in life. I feel like you need a break. So the outdoors is definitely my go-to. Like you said, like a motorcycle ride. Even if I'm going on a motorcycle ride to like my hot yoga or my cycling in the sauna or whatever, that's like literally right around the corner. That's my little break, up until I get to training again, and then I get a little break on the way back home.
Well, all that training obviously has gone in your favor and put you in a great spot here with the BKFC, the inaugural 145-pound champion. An incredible fight over Rankin, who of course had that big pedigree in boxing. Was probably obviously your biggest name and toughest opponent coming in, and you dispatched her really quick. I mean, the first actual full-on knockout in BKFC women's history. So of course, there's TKOs. You had some of those, but full-on face to mat, fell like a tree knockout. What did it feel like to do that? I know you set out to do that. You didn't like her. You wanted to do that. But when that punch actually landed and you saw her going down and knew that she was not getting back up, how much more elation did that add to it?
Oh man, it just tastes so sweet, especially with like the rivalry and stuff like that. Of course, it's gonna taste sweeter, but that comes into play too. Like I was saying, the skill level. Yes, I was getting TKOs, they were quitting and stuff like that, but that technique and that skill is getting better and better, and that's why that knockout came. I know people are like, oh, you don't have much viewing on her because she's not in there very long, but you can see the skill even with the short amount of time if you really know the skill for boxing and bare knuckle boxing. So it was couldn't have gone better, honestly. But this one, I want to break her face. I don't want to just knock her out. I want to break her face.
I mean, you're not getting paid by the punch, so why stay in there for longer and take some shots yourself?
Yeah, everyone was like, you should make it go longer. I'm like, no, no. Why? I mean, not to say that I can't. A lot of people think I can't go the distance just because I don't go the distance. But they're very wrong about that. I keep my cardio up to top tier. So just in case, I'm always preparing for a 5-round brawl or maybe even a 6 if it goes ever to a match like that. But I'm always prepared for the worst case scenario. So they can try.
And you often bring that worst case scenario so far on your opponents. The power that you have, where do you think that comes from? Is it just about the technique? Is it some of the strength training you do in certain areas you think adds to that as well? What is it? Because we've seen you and your power. We've seen Misfit, and there's a lot of other great fighters in the BKFC in the women's division that put on great fights like Britain Hart, but very very few we've seen have the power of a you or Christine or some of the few others who can get these TKO victories.
I got lucky with a powerful punch. You see a few other fighters like Amanda Nunes, Cyborg, that has extreme power. And it does come into play, but the technique and the strength and conditioning does as well. So all of that coming into the power that I have naturally, because you can't really teach that to someone. You can't grow that as a female. You either have it or you don't. And I was gifted with the power, so that just the technique is just making me even more powerful.
And you use that to your fruition. You've got this belt now, and now you're going for a new one, the Queen of Violence belt. And to be honest, most times you get these other belts, I'm not for it. It annoys me. It's like, come on, why are we making up a title? There's real ones. Like, no disrespect to Mike Perry, he's had great fights, but the King of Violence, like, your teammate has the belt in his division. Go fight for the real belt. In this case, both of you are title holders, and you're kind of meeting in the middle here. How excited are you for this belt? Does it even mean a little bit more to you? Because the 145-pound division in the BKFC for women and for women in combat sports in general is kind of underserved. Not as many women in there. You see a lot more of the 115, 125, maybe 135, but even places like the UFC have gotten rid of the bigger division. So as someone who fights at 145, does this mean even more for you if you go down and get this title from Christine, who is one of the best of the BKFC ever in this women's division?
Well, I think that a lot of people are confused because it's not for the 35 title. They're just creating a belt called the Queen of Violence, and it's a catch weight 137 with a pound allowance, so 138. So a lot of people don't know that. They're not really disclosing that, but I want to make sure that people are very aware that I am not going for the 135 title. I do not want to stay there. Not going to cut weight again. I just wanted to cut weight to beat her ass, and that's it. That's really that's going to be, I mean, if someone wants to fight for the Queen of Violence title at 140 above after that, let's fucking go. But other than that.
But does it add a little more for you that you get this extra challenge of fighting another champion in the BKFC?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not keen to wanting to fight smaller opponents. I really like to challenge myself. Like my last opponent, she's usually fighting at 155. She fought Clarissa Shields. She is a bigger, more game opponent with boxing anyway. Let me say that because yes, Christine does have bare knuckle experience more so than Hannah Rankin did. But when it comes to boxing and the size and everything, you could tell she was like 170 when she got back in that ring. And I don't, like I said, I'm not a weight bully. I walk around at my weight class. So the size doesn't scare me. Cutting weight to me is stupid for anyone being a weight bully like Ferea has, because she has walked around at my weight pretty much and cut down to 125. In my opinion, you're a weight bully. You're trying to be the bigger bull. You're beating smaller opponents. To me, that's not exciting. But whatever. To me, it's right now she is the face of the female division. She has been. So if it means taking her out to prove even more so who I am, then let's go.
She's been the face. She's been one of the best. Also, the mouth of the female division in a lot of ways. And you experienced that, especially at the press conference. I know that there's not a lot of love. And of course, there's always going to be talk of, I don't like that person because you're fighting. You got to build up the fight. In this case, it's real from what I've seen. I've watched a couple of interviews with you. I saw you talking with our buddy Brian Sosha about this as well. I don't know what it was like before the press conference, if there was any, mutual respect, and it was kind of, changed after that day. But after that day, for sure, you might respect her talent, but definitely don't respect her as a person.
No, I don't. I lost all of that whenever I offered her the fight with Hardy. Whenever it was over a year ago, whenever that fight with Hardy fell through and she needed an opponent and she was crying and whining about no one wanting to fight her, and I offered her to fight her literally after just fighting 2 weeks prior at a catch weight of 140, because she was fighting her at 35 and I'm a 45 and I had just fought. So I offered her the catch weight at 140 and she wanted to start in on saying that I'm not even on her level and so on and so forth. So then it got worse with her insults towards my coach and my husband. And like, you can say whatever you want about me. I have never cared about the opinions or the words that come out of other people's mouth about me. But when it comes to people I love and care about, that's when I'm like, all right, you lost all respect. And that's when you're really in trouble.
We'll see what kind of trouble you put her in now as you get into this fight. We know what you're expecting. You're expecting to put her lights out and maybe even end her career. So what are you expecting for her to bring to you? Both of you like to be, coming forward, being aggressive, putting it on your opponent. Is it just two high-speed, trains crashing in the middle here, or what are you expecting her to come out as?
She wants me to be coming out aggressive, but I think that once she gets hit one time with my power, she's gonna fold. Like, she's not. They always underestimate me. When I say that I'm a power, I got power. They always underestimate me until I hit them, and then I see that look in their eyes, and it's like their soul leaves their body, and it's gonna be the same way with her. She almost got knocked out by a 125er, so I'm sorry, but she was a little bit worried of Jod's power too. And Jod walks around about the same weight as I, 143 actually, so not far from me either. And she's a power puncher, so she has a little bit of power. You can see that in her fights. But she was worried about her power. So if she's worried about her power, she's going to be scared to death of mine. And she's going to feel it.
Well, we're looking forward to that. Jade had some power coming in, but definitely seemed like she didn't want to throw it when she got in there with Christine. We don't expect the same from you. We know you're going to be in there to do harm, and we can't wait to watch it. It's going to be an awesome fight. We're looking forward to seeing who wins that Queen of Violence belt. But before we get you out of here, I want to give you one last question here, because I know that you came from a situation where you had a lot of things going on in your life. You started training, you said, because of domestic violence that you went through. You have this nonprofit where you go and speak and share your story to people and try to let them know what happened to you and help better their lives. How big is that part of your life? You have your family, you have your training, but how big is it for you to have this nonprofit, to have these speaking engagements where you go and share your story with people who may be going through things that you did and try to give them a little extra hope, a little extra light, and improve their lives as well?
I get goosebumps just you talking about it. It is everything to me. It's like my entire heart, passion. Now that I got a platform that I can give back with, it just means everything. To me, it's being able to help others that were coming from or are involved in the situations that I had to deal with, and being able to help them is everything to me. And I'm so excited that I actually get to do this and I get to carry this on even after I retire, which isn't anytime soon, but I get to do that, you know, and have that fully. That's going to be my full mission, especially after I retire. But I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon. So I'm going to do what I can while I'm doing this as well.
Well, I'm happy you put that disclaimer in there for the fans of BKFC, because obviously we don't want to see you go anytime soon. We've enjoyed your fights, and you know, I'm sure there's plenty more action that we'll see over the years. Fighting for the Queen of Violence title next week against the Misfit Ferea. She is Jessica Borga. Either way, she will walk out a champion, as she is the 145 champion of the BKFC women's featherweight division. Jessica, thanks so much. The Black Widow, looking forward to seeing you fight next week.